This episode of the Fight Within podcast is presented to you by Meguiar's. For over 115 years, Meguiar's has been carefully creating and producing advanced formulas with cutting-edge chemistry to deliver a show car perfect appearance. Whether you're showing on the fairway, finalizing your car for auction, or simply getting your beloved car ready for a weekend drive, Meguiar's is ready to help with their premium car care products to make every automotive surface look its absolute best. Meguiar's, reflect your passion. Make sure to visit them at meguiars.com.
What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Fight Within podcast. Today's guest is founder and CEO of Purpose Roofing and also host of the Ask My Roofer podcast, Arthur Perez. Thanks for being here, man. Appreciate you. Thank you for taking the time. So we've known each other through our wives for a little while.
I would say that.
And when I knew you, you were a rapper. So you were a musician, you were an artist, and now the strides you've made have brought you into the entrepreneurship world, if you will. And so I want to know why. How do you go from being a musician, being an artist, to being an entrepreneur, being a podcast host, and just kind of changing the trajectory of your career choice, and how has that journey been owning a roofing company and now being a host of a podcast?
Awesome. Well, great question. There's a lot of meat on that one. So I'll give you the long story instead of the short. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Manny, for having me on the show. Man. I appreciate it. Love your show. So what I would say is my life has been altered by catastrophic events. Mm-hmm. Okay. I've always known that I want to do big things, right? That's always kind of been in my blood. Yeah. Aries, really out there, very, I wouldn't say flamboyant. I'm not going to go there. All right. But I will say attention. So, I grew up in the golden age of hip hop in the 90s. I would call it that. The kids now call me old. They call me old, but I say golden. I'm golden, baby. Right.
That's way better than now.
And so, I've always just been able to take what I learn and adapt it and use it and grow with it, right? So, I was listening to music when I was younger, and I fell in love with it, and I said, I want to do it. So I just started writing, and I would do shows, I would do parties, I would do house parties, anything that I could do until I established a style, a flow, that whole thing.
Yeah.
But I was young, and, I was a young father at that time. I had met my wife, and, I was rapping before that, but basically it really took off once I met my wife, and then once we even had kids. We started, rapping with a band and doing shows kind of all over, which was a phenomenal experience, but I digress. The reason why my life is shaped by catastrophic events is because in 2001, World Trade hits. Mm-hmm. I had met my wife previously. We had kind of lost touch, right? When we were younger. And so we had talked about our love for New York. The World Trade happens, right?
Yeah.
And then I reach out to her, and boom, my hip-hop career takes off. So that was the precursor to that life event. So I'm doing that for a while, and I decide, for me to take the time away from my family and continue this hip-hop thing, which I loved, it just wasn't going to fit. When you're trying to really make it, you have to be able to struggle. With any business, when you start, you have to be able to kind of struggle and survive and get by on the minimum and make do with what you can. And for us to really make it, we'd have to go on the road. I'd be gone forever. Even when we were going to Vegas and doing shows that were kind of out of town, it really put a strain on my wife. So I said, you know what, I got to back up.
Yeah.
The basis for what I love to do is writing. So I'm going to write. I'm going to start writing books. Put out a couple of poetry books, right? Yeah. 2008 to 2013, just started writing. 2016, put out some other stuff. 2008 hits, right? So we go back to 2008, another catastrophic event. We are hit with a recession.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was in the mortgage industry, doing the rap, doing the writing, but making my money really in the mortgage industry. That whole thing went away. So what do I do now? I'm struggling. I don't know what to do. I can't get back into the industry that was feeding my family. Yeah. I go to work for an industrial laundry company, which my wife's father owns. And I'm slinging dirty laundry. I'm picking up dirty clothes, and I hate my job. I'm in one of those, aluminum trucks, just hating my life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But what I've come to realize is that every great event in my life has been precursored or basically origined by one of these big events.
Yeah.
And what I really think is that I get complacent, or maybe people in general get complacent. And so God's like, it's time to move you along. And the only way we can do that is if I push you out the door, right? So I'm gonna pull the rug. You're gonna have to do something new. You're gonna have to adapt and grow, and you're gonna learn. So I was doing the industrial laundry thing, and I ended up stopping at a roofing company, delivering their uniforms, and the owner happened to be there. We were chatting it up, and he said, I really think you have what it takes to sell roofing. And I said, you do? Cool, because I don't know anything about
what are
it.
you talking about?
You know what I mean? And I really thought he was joking. We had a great conversation, but I was out of my league. There's no way I could sell anything that they were doing because I did not have the slightest background. Not mechanical, wasn't any type of don't have the architect, engineer mind. But I hated my job. So I hit him up 2 weeks later, and I'm like, were you serious about that? And he said, yeah, I'll train you. I'll do this. At the time, my cars had been repossessed. Like, we had lost everything. You know what I mean? So we had to buy these hoopty cars, these buckets, right? And, mine, I had to sell it to make rent that month. And so we were down to one car. And I'm like, okay, so what are we talking about in terms of money? He's like, well, I'll get you a car. And you're going to make X amount of money a week. And I'm like, what? Say that again. I'm going to make how much? So double my salary, get me a car. I'm on commission now. And it just, that changed the trajectory of our whole life. So I've been doing that for the last, 10 years, 12 years, whatever it is in terms of time. And the pandemic hits. Yeah. And that all goes away again, right? So, people get scared. They're worried about sales and things like that. Is anybody really going to purchase, buy? We did a lot of commercial business, and the commercial space was struggling because all their tenants are out of business, right?
Oh, yeah.
So the owners are like, we can't afford this amount of staff. We got to let people go. And so out of necessity, I said, well, I've learned a lot. It's time for me to go out on my own and do my own thing. And we started Purpose in April of 2020, and we haven't looked back. Yeah. And that's the short story long, or long story short, so to speak, But
then how'd you deal with backtracking just a little bit? It's almost like a two-part question. Yeah. You said you were doing your writing, but you still had to provide for your family. Yeah. So how did you deal with doing what you're passionate about on your off time, if you will, but then still having to provide for your family? Because that's a balancing act in itself. Like, people know, like I'm a marketing manager at a plumbing company. Right. We're filming this after my work hours. Ben owns Hidden House Coffee. Yeah. He's filming this after work hours. Like, off camera, he was like, bro, I had such a hard day. And I'm like, struggling today. Just brain fog. But he's still here and he's still doing it. Yeah. So how did you find the balance, and kind of, do you think that led you, like, dealing with that balance led you to where you are now, as far as how you think about business, how you handle business, the decisions that you make? Because your kids are getting older. You have more experience in the industry. Right. So how'd you balance the passion and the, hey, I got to put my family first?
So I think with any passion, you don't find the time, you have to make the time, right? For the things that you love, you make the time. So you make the time for your family, you make the time for your passion, and obviously, however you're providing for your family, that's probably going to occupy most of your time. But communication in the family environment is so huge. You learn to express to your significant other, your wife, whoever it is, if you're in a relationship, these are the things that motivate me. These are the things that make me go. I need to be doing these things right now, while also handling, whatever business you can. Honestly, like you said, there aren't enough hours in the day. So I would write, on a lunch break. I would write on a lunch hour. I would write when everybody was in bed. I would write constantly. Just whenever I found the time, I would be writing, whether that was lyrics or whether that was poetry. And that's really just how it went. There was never really a dedicated time where I could say, all right, I'm in my office, I'm writing now. Nobody, I didn't have blocks of time. And I think that really does prepare you for a life of entrepreneurship. You know, when I was working for these other companies and it wasn't my business, I still had that pride of ownership and I treated every job like that. But at 4 o'clock, I'm like,
you're out.
I'm trying to get out of here, man. This isn't my money.
Do you think more employees have to think like that though and take ownership? Because there's so many guys on social media now saying, you know, you don't need school.
Yeah.
You're making someone else's dream come true.
Yeah.
You know, work for yourself. And it's like, but you're not going to learn. No one's just going to learn how to be a business owner. No one's just going to learn how to be an entrepreneur. It's like we talked about on our episode. There's no book that says this is how you become a parent. Like there is, but it's not accurate. So I speak on that. Like, why did you have that mentality? Why did you have that you took ownership? Like, hey, I'm going to take pride in what I'm doing, even though this isn't my company.
Well, so I told my wife when I turned 35, so I'm going to be 40 this year.
You look 25.
Thank you, man.
I guess that.
You know,
Yeah, really?
I look 38, but you know, I'm 39 to quote Mark Francie, right? I told my wife at 35, I will have my own company by 40. And I prayed into that, and I really thought that was going to happen. I didn't know the road that I was going to take, but I knew that was going to happen somehow. And you know, so really, you know, when I think about it, I was always preparing to own my own company. I knew that the people that I took care of, they were going to help my reputation. I was going to have an image in the industry that I handle business, that I'm very professional, that I do what I say I'm going to do, so that when I opened my own business, there was going to be no hesitation with somebody coming to a new company and feeling like they weren't being satisfied in terms of service.
Because they know you.
Yes, I've already developed that.
Yeah.
So when we did start our company, I told my wife, I said, look, we're going to have this person, this company, that company follow us. I guarantee it. And it happened because I had taken care of them so well. It wasn't really who I was with. It was what I was providing them. You know what I mean?
And selling yourself.
I was selling myself, essentially. Yeah. So, you know, me doing all the extra marketing, doing the events at night, going above and beyond, dropping off cards saying thank you for this job, or dropping off a bottle of wine or a Starbucks card. The littlest thing that was beyond what they expected meant so much more to them than I think you can even realize.
Yeah.
So I was doing those things for the last decade. So now that we've started our company, we do have momentum. You know, we are a new company in fact, but, you know, in terms of equity that we've put into these people,
it's been years.
It's been years.
Yeah.
And so I think you, oh, go ahead. No. I think you you hit it on the head though. Like I've never met you, obviously just met you, but listening to what you were talking about, I've been a business owner this would be my 11th year. So I don't necessarily have the experience for working for different companies and stuff like that, but everything I'm listening to you say is stuff that, you know, like I want my employees to be able to do. Yeah. And it's not for the benefit of my own gain. It's for the benefit of themselves, right? Yeah. Like I think everything you do, and you've kind of just touched on it, so I thought it was really cool to like highlight, but everything you've done, you've taken ownership of, which we've said numerous times, but I feel like that's something that's lacking in today's just culture.
Oh, yeah.
You know, people do the bare minimum. Like you said, oh, it's 4 o'clock. I got to get out of here. How can I undercut this place because it's not my own?
Right.
But I think you're going to find, and you have been finding success because you do give everything. Like you do give yourself, you do give everything. And listening to it, it's like, you're the type of guy like I want to work with, you know, it's like, and I think we just lack that as a culture now. It's like people just always looking out for themselves. So I thought that was really cool just to kind of hear you say that. And again, I didn't know you before this, but listening to that, I'm like, dang man, I want to work with this guy somehow, you know? So listening to that, it's cool. And like taking that ownership, you know, like you're on a new journey, which is rad, but you've been doing it already for, like you said, the last decade, whether it was for yourself or for somebody else, you're doing it. So I thought that was something really cool to touch on.
Yeah. And just to piggyback on the what we were saying before, you know, 4 o'clock would come around and you're ready to get out of there. I mean, you know, I put in a full day's work and it was a hard day. But you know, nowadays I'm getting up, I'm getting calls at 7 a.m. I'm getting calls at 6 a.m. I'm dealing with people in Florida due to the podcast and what we're doing. They're texting me at 3 a.m. I'm still up at 12 o'clock marketing, learning the new systems that we're putting in place, right? We got a new CRM that we're utilizing to track all of our data, because I think that's hugely important. Some of the things that I thought were such a waste of time when I was in sales are like the most important things to me right now. So props to I have so much more respect for every company that I've ever worked for that has been established. You talk about being in business for 11 years. That is a huge accomplishment. You know, you don't last very long if you're not doing things well.
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of how it goes. And the other thing I wanted to say, just in terms of, business and developing that whole thing, it's really just about how you treat people. It comes down to relationships, and managing relationships and honoring relationships. So.
But how do you think you're obviously, you have the I guess the knowledge, like you've been able to pinpoint like, hey, these events have happened in my life which have led me to these things. Are you just aware of your life, or is it just you thinking back in retrospect like, hey, these events have happened which have forced me to make these moves and make these decisions? And now I don't have a choice but to think of it like this, or I don't have a choice but to do these things because I have to survive. Mm-hmm. And it seems like you're like in tune with it, because it's hard. Even me, like if you told me right now, name one time or one moment that like changed your life, I'd have to think. Mm-hmm. It seems like you have that down, like, hey, these events really changed the trajectory of my life. And I had to make this decision. I had to pivot here. I had to make this move. Mm-hmm. Where do you get that? Again, back to like that sense of ownership. Where do you get that?
Well, I think hindsight is 20/20, right? So each one of us has the opportunity to look at our past, and I think more people need to do that. We need to spend time looking at our journey and seeing the mistakes that we made or the things that we did right, maybe certain events, relationships, people that have changed our life, and see how they've changed the trajectory of our life or our careers. Yeah. When I was thinking about coming on the podcast and talking to you, that was one of the things that came up, and I really, kind of dove into that feeling. Well, how did I get here? And I don't mean like in this time, like, why am I going on Manny's show? What are we talking about? We're talking about entrepreneurship, right? Yeah. The fight within. Well, what have I been dealing with? What have I been fighting to get to this point? Yeah. And it allowed me to really pinpoint a couple key moments in my life where these things happened and they've changed my trajectory so dramatically that I felt like I had to touch on them.
Knowing that and having that mentality, is there a sense of like, not lost, but are you almost concerned, like, okay, what's going to happen next? Because my life over the last 38 years has gone like that, and there's been events that have changed or made me change. Are you worried in a sense of what's going to happen next? Because you found success, and then, like you said, it's not because you're a new company. You've established yourself and your brand, if you will, in the industry over the last decade. But is there a sense of worry and about what's going to happen next to make you pivot, and how do you deal with that worry if there's not,
So I'll tell you one thing. Not one of those negative things in my life ever made me or my children miss a meal. Yeah. We've always had clothes. We've always had a home. Yeah. We've always been provided for. So the one thing that has taught me is that I've always been taken care of. Mm-hmm. It's only strengthened my faith in God, my faith in the fact that if the birds of the air are being, fed and, right, if he's taking care of everything else, how much more am I loved or taken care of, right? And so I've looked back on these events that, losing cars, losing opportunities to buy homes, all this stuff that I thought I needed at the time. And it really has made me look at what I need and what I want, like what's access to me, right? So we're starting, we're in the process of starting this business. And I can't tell you a time when I've been happier to get rid of more. Right? Yeah. Just get rid of things that are cluttering you. Not only in an actual sense, like we're literally removing clutter from our lives in terms of things that we've just been carrying, but emotionally, right? Emotionally, we're taking an emotional stock of where we are, what we're carrying with us now, and I think that mental state, that point where you can look at yourself, you can analyze yourself, and you can see all of these things have happened. We're still healthy. We're still happy. We're still moving forward. That has given us more of a sense of accomplishment than anything, right? Because it's not about how much you can accumulate. It's about your health. It's about being healthy going forward. You mentioned that my kids are getting older. I have 3 kids. I have 17, excuse me. Going to be 18, right?
17?
So 17, 14, and going to be 10.
Yeah.
And the most important thing for me nowadays is being present. You know, we're in a pandemic, and I thought that losing my job would be the worst thing ever. It's been the best thing, honestly, because I've been able to be home to start my business, to get everything going. I've never spent more time with my family in my life. I've never had more time to help them with school, which sucks, but hey, you know, it just reminds me how dumb I am. I hate high school math, right? You know, that wasn't my thing. But, you know, there's such a bright side to all of these things that are happening. It allows you to remove all of these things that weigh us down, that clutter us, and just focus on the things that truly matter.
Are you able? I was listening to Mike Tyson's Hotboxing podcast, and this was an older episode, but he had mentioned that he himself takes inventory of his day, and he's like, he's like, you know, was I nice to this person? Did I make this person feel good? Was I mean to them? Did I say something bad? You know, how, and he takes inventory of how he made other people feel.
That sounds crazy coming from him,
And
right?
it's insane, man.
A guy who used to say, I want to eat you kids, eat you kids,
Like,
eat
nuts.
you kids, right?
So within that question, one, do you take inventory? And then two, answer that first, because the other, I have another question that I really want to get into.
I would say now I have to. You know, growing up the way that I did, and I had somewhat of a difficult childhood.
Yeah.
You know, abandonment issues, all kinds of different things.
Sure.
Right. Dry alcoholic stuff you don't ever want your kids to deal with. And so we cushion their lives and we make their lives all perfect. And we got to make them a little rougher, man. These kids are getting soft, but
So soft.
so soft, man. Safe spaces and pizza. But, you know, I do now only because my mind has taken me to places that I don't want to be before.
Yeah.
You know, I've had addictions that I don't want anymore. And I can't allow them in my life because some of those things have ruined really awesome things that God has had for me. So it's like I am constantly like, I rebuke you, Satan. Get behind, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like all of these thoughts, like get behind me, Satan. You know what I mean? Because I have to stay in that mind state. And I think all of us do, man. We are so conditioned to be on our phones, to be on all of these things that take our eyes off of the prize. Or bring us to a place where we feel like I need to look like that guy, or I need to be, you know, as buff as Ben, or you know what I mean? Or I need to be this or that. You know what I mean? We all go to these places. And I think that taking inventory of what you have, starting your day with a gratitude list is huge. You know, you start your day with, hey, I may not have everything I want, but this is what I do have. 3 beautiful kids, a beautiful wife. I am breathing. I have a roof over my head. You know, our business is thriving. Doing that allows you to set the tone for your day. And then at the end of the day, you just thank God you made another one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, that was the question I had next was, now that you are an entrepreneur, how do you set up your schedule? Like, what do you do to not get lazy or not get complacent? Like, how do you say, you know, do you set a schedule or do you just wake up? Like, what is your routine daily? Because like how can you, I want what you talk about to help one of the listeners. Like if someone's thinking about starting a business, but they're scared, they want to start a business, they don't know how to, like what do you do that helped you transition from employee to business owner?
Okay. Well, I'm going to pose a question to Ben real quick and we'll answer this together. So did you know everything about coffee when you started?
Absolutely not. I still don't.
Right.
Learning every day. Learning every day.
Had you owned a business prior to that?
I had not.
So what has been the biggest educational tool for you?
Just hands-on, daily. And I think for me, like knowing that I'm never going to be 100% perfect is what matters. And having the ability to be able to be like, oh, I didn't know that. Let's learn, let's adjust, let's pivot, let's move forward. And so it's just been the hands-on, doing it, learning. I'm assuming it's gonna be very similar to what you were saying, and it's adapting, always never being satisfied and never letting yourself get complacent.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say.
And that's exactly what I was going to say. So, and I'll paraphrase it in my way. So, you know, I know everything about roofing, which I don't, but I'm going to front like I do for the sake of conversation. I know everything about roofing. I know everything about sales. I know everything about marketing. Do I know how to start a company? I know nothing. I thought that I could go out and do it because I had been doing a little bit of every, you know, aspect of what starting a business, you know, entails, you know. Damn, right off the bat, learning insurances, learning what insurances I have to have, paying for that insurance, learning about the licensing, getting a license, maintaining, you know, all of these things, setting up processes, setting up how my daily process is going to go, right? Setting up a schedule, the systems that we use. There is so much that goes into running a business. The only way you can ever learn it is if you're hands-on and you get in there and you do it. And you make mistakes.
Just go for it.
Failure has been the best tool that I have in my back pocket.
Agreed.
Because that's the only way I've been able to. Now, not catastrophic failure. You know, you got to fail in small doses, right? So I would say if you're gonna attempt things, fail as small as you can, right? Just as little as you can.
But then how do you set up your day?
So this is what we do.
Or is it just based on what you have coming in?
It's always changing. So, you know, being a business owner, being an entrepreneur is so dynamic because it's constantly changing. Like I said, I mentioned this morning, I had somebody who reached out to me I hadn't talked to in a long time, thought I wasn't going to talk to again. I drop everything for that guy. I go and do what he needs me to do, move things around. But generally, I set a weekly schedule. I have a monthly schedule, kind of what we want to accomplish in this month. You know, every Sunday we review what's going on for the previous week. And then at the end of every day, we check what's going on the next morning and see if we've had to adjust anything.
How important is that to set goals?
It's
like,
huge.
I have this number I want to hit, but how do you deal with not hitting it every month?
I always hit my numbers, man. That's the arrogant. That's the arrogant salesman. That's the arrogant salesman to me.
Someone that has a flag company and they have to sell. They want to sell 100 flags every month,
right?
But they're only selling 30.
Okay, so I'm gonna plug my podcast. I just dropped today. Ask My Roofer. I had a great guest, Becca Switzer. What she does is she helps people sell. It doesn't matter what you do. She can help you sell. And what she did is you have to figure out your metrics. How much time do you have to devote to make a sale? Just one sale.
Yeah.
Right? Do you have to talk to 10 people to make the one sale? Okay, well, if you want to get 10 sales, then you have to talk to 100 people, right? How long does it take you to do that? So you have to know and hone in on your own analytics, your own metrics. You have to know your numbers. And once you have that, then you can have real life data and you can attack it that way. You know, closing ratio is huge. Like I said, how many people do you have to deal with and interact with to bring in the jobs that you need? If I have to talk to 300 people in a month, I'm going to go talk to 300 people in a month. And you said something, so like what motivates you or how do you know, when you're an entrepreneur, you're doing it on your own steam. I cannot rely on somebody else to pay my bills or my mortgage or for my vehicles or put food on the table. So every single day when I wake up, that's my motivation. Call it panic, call it fear, right? It's just, you know, it's all on you at that point.
And then how do you not let that weigh you down? That pressure, because you're a competitive person.
Yeah.
How are you automatically? You're gonna put pressure on yourself.
Yeah.
And you're gonna put more weight on your shoulders than you probably should.
Yeah.
But that's just how you are. So how do you deal with that? Like what helps you not beat yourself up and say, man, you know you're not good enough. You should just start working back at XYZ roofing company. You should just go back. This is too hard.
Yeah.
Like you have that motivation, that factor's there. Your family, you feeding them, not being able to blame anyone else, not relying on anybody else, which is great, but you're going to beat yourself up. So what do you do specifically to get over that hump? Because I've been there. I beat myself up.
Yeah.
You know, I lose a fight. Oh, you suck. You should go work at McDonald's. Like, you know, that you're not good enough. And then you're
McDonald's
like, no.
is tight, dude. That was my first job.
Really?
Yeah. Sorry.
No, it's all good.
You know what I mean? Like I have, talk on it. I have my faith.
Yeah.
But I didn't always turn to that.
Yeah. I honestly believe that if you are following a process, it will work. If there is a process, you have to trust the process. Yeah. I mean, not so much like Philly, right?
Yeah.
But you have to trust the process and just trust that it's going to work out. And it's not overnight. It really isn't. It takes time to develop. When I say process, you start a company, but you don't have an outline for how everything is going to work. That's something that you have to create, and that's what's so special about people that have been in business for so long, like Ben, right? 11 years. It's fantastic. He has somewhat of a process down now, so he knows how his day needs to run. He knows how much work he needs to get done in order to make a certain amount of money so that he's there. You just have to develop that over time, and you can't. I mean, if you're going out and being an entrepreneur, you have a passion for it. So there's no lack of motivation if you're going to get in this game, right? No matter what it is. If you're selling socks or flags or roofs or coffee, or you're a fighter, your passion, where your passion lies.
Sure.
You chase those things, and that's going to help you with motivation.
It's so true. I want you to be able to, I hate when people ask me this, so sorry if you hit the same question. But you had at one point nothing, right? You lost everything. You were selling cars to freaking pay for your bills.
Yeah.
Take that point of your life to where you're at now, and if you were to give a bit of advice, I know we've kind of hit on it of just essentially saying you got to just get after it. But if you were to kind of, again, I don't like this question, but speak to your younger self and or someone listening that's in the same spot where they got nothing, but they know their end goal is to be a business owner. What little elevator pitch would you give them to be able to kind of give them hopefully that little nudge of being dude, just go after it?
The first thing I would say is change your attitude. You have to change your attitude. When I lost the fancy suit and tie mortgage job, which was making us ridiculous money at the time for a 26-year-old kid, whatever it was, however old I am, bad at math. My attitude was horrible. I hated my job. I literally hated my job. I thought that I was above picking up people's dirty laundry and taking it to get washed. And then, but you know what I mean? And I hated the hot aluminum truck in the summer. And then one day, my wife said, you know what? You have to change your attitude. It's toxic, not only to myself, but to the family, to everybody around me. And that's when I really started taking stock in my mental state, right?
Yeah.
And I can tell you from the moment that I started having a happy attitude, going into these offices, hey, I'm here to help you. How can I serve you? I went from being this really arrogant person to being humbled and becoming a servant, right? And just wanting to serve people. That's when I met the owner. I was having a great day. I was like, what can I do for you? And he's like, you know what? I want you to come work for me. That change of attitude changed my whole life. So I would say, get your mind right, get healthy, take inventory of how you feel about yourself, and make sure that you're telling yourself the right things. We talk to ourselves more than anybody else. Like you said, you suck, work at McDonald's, do that, you know what I mean? And it's like, no, you have to get rid of the toxicity in your own head first, and then everything changes.
So where do you see Purpose Roofing in, what's your goal for it in 5 years and 10 years? What do you want to accomplish with it, and what do you want to do for other people? Because I know you have a big heart for other people. So speak on that, just on what, not in detail if you don't want to, if it's a personal thing. What are your goals for the company? Where do you see yourself?
So it's a good, better, best. And it's two parts. The good would be just a sustainable company making enough money to take care of us and the people around us, our friends. Whatever we need to do for our church, our community, that'd be great. That's good. The better is growing to a size where we can actually start funding a nonprofit, which is something that we've talked about. The name Purpose, we want to have a purpose in everything that we do every day. And that means helping our community, donating to, Second Harvest Food Bank, to Orangewood for, kids who are less privileged, donating meals for food, just to kids. There's a lot of really shocking statistics that have come out of the pandemic where, a certain amount of children in Orange County, affluent areas, they don't get a hot meal other than when they go to school. So school's been out. These poor kids aren't getting hot meals. You wouldn't assume that in Rancho, in Mission, in Ladera, in all of these places where, we're surrounded by wealth. And I think that we've been put here because we have an opportunity to generate that wealth and we're supposed to give it back. So that would be my better.
Yeah.
And my best would be everything that we've already said, but then also growing. I'd love to go national, and maybe just we'll see what it grows into. And that would be that. You know, I think a priority for us is the nonprofit, so I think that's where we're going to go next, and then from there, the sky's the limit.
Sure.
That's
Yeah.
rad.
Yeah.
It's been really cool listening. I feel like I'm a listener. I've just enjoyed listening to you, hearing like your heart and where you've come from, dude. I think it's rad. I think you have a huge story to tell. I'm excited for you.
Thank you.
I think like becoming an entrepreneur and a business owner, man, it's one of the greatest satisfactions and also one of obviously the hardest things you'll ever do. And if it was easy, there'd be a crap ton of people doing it. So I think it's awesome. You did it in a time where a lot of people would never be fortunate enough. So good for you, man. I'm here if you ever need anything. It's been awesome listening. So I enjoy just listening. I felt like I was just like watching you guys eating a freaking bag of popcorn or something.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. You know what I mean? I really appreciate what you guys are doing. You guys have a great podcast, and I've been watching you guys grow. So I'm excited to see where you guys go.
I'm excited too. Where can people find you? Where can people listen to the podcast? And how can people get a hold of you?
Awesome. So the podcast is the Ask My Roofer podcast. You can find us on LinkedIn, Ask My Roofer, on Instagram, Ask My Roofer on Facebook. Our website is www.askmyroofer.com. Find me personally on LinkedIn, Arthur Perez. And that's pretty much what it is, guys.
Purpose Roofing.
Yes. Purpose Roofing, the roofing contractor, is at Purpose Roof or roofing.com.
Good.
Or at Purpose Roofs.
Good. Well, thanks for coming on, man.
Of course,
appreciate
man.
you.
Thank you, guys. I really do appreciate it.
Guys, make sure to tune in to his podcast. Make sure you guys go and support him locally. If you're in the Southern Orange County area, you guys, I'm sure, can meet with him and talk about getting a new roof. Again, Ben, awesome episode. Art,
loved it.
Thur, thank you for coming on. And just remember, guys, that everything was impossible until someone did it.
Yep.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Kingdom Nutrition. Make sure you guys go and visit their site over at kingdomnutrition.com and enter promo code MFW10 to get 10% off your next purchase. Kingdom Nutrition carries the best sports supplements on the market. They manufacture and curate their own line of supplements with the highest quality ingredients, including a lean protein, weight gainer protein, pre-workout, BCAAs, and an array of other products. They've recently created the world's first vegan chickpea protein, and it tastes amazing. I'm a big dude. I like food, and I like chocolate. So when they told me it comes in chocolate and vanilla, I got really happy. But if you're a workout enthusiast and you want to change up your diet, change up your protein, go check out their vanilla chickpea protein. It mixes well with anything. It'll blend great with a smoothie. So to get your hands on any of these products, just make sure and go visit kingdomnutrition.com. Remember to enter promo code MFW10 and get 10% off your next purchase. Let's go.